This is real quick. I wanted to show a part of the holistic management model. This is the only model that I know of that's been working for 20 years to restore lands. And I wanted to particularly focus in on the tools. You've got your ecosystem processes here, which are the ecology, all the biodiversity, the water cycle, mineral cycle, which includes carbon and energy flow. And you say the tools you use to manage those are all right here. There's human technology, there's rest, which is leaving the land alone, there's fire, there's grazing, and animal impact. Grazing is the actual grazing the plants, and animal impact is the hoof action and leaving all the nutrients, the dung and the urine. And then there's this thing called living organisms. It's all the stuff that we don't understand about biodiversity we're learning. Like in my wastewater project, this was really huge, because the more biodiversity you put in, the more. And then you notice in parentheses it says we've got money and labor to work on anything, or we could use human creativity. If we get this part right, maybe we won't have to use as much of this part. So let's say we use some tools. This is out in West Texas, this picture I took a couple weeks ago. And this is hard to see, but you notice the ground here has pretty much been dragged free of any vegetation at all. And mesquite is the enemy out in West Texas right now. Mesquite is taking all the water from the grass. That's what they're saying. And so they drag the stuff, they burn it. They couldn't burn that day because there's laws against burning if the humidity is lower and such, so they didn't burn that day, so I got this picture. But they just had huge piles of the stuff. And then they will plant grasses and they'll try to bring in water to irrigate. And then they'll graze. Okay? So, imagine the costs of such a system. A lot of these guys make their money on natural gas. And then they farm. And, so now I'm going to show you another picture. And this is a cow in the middle of a bunch of sheep. This is in January. The grass is kind of brown, and I wish we had better color here. But this is an area out near the Pecos River in South Texas, out past Ozona. And when I learned about this place years and years ago in college, we thought that was desert out there, but it used to be grasslands out there. And when the Maddoxes got out there in 2002, it was 68% bare ground, and they had a very hard time finding any perennial grasses that were healthy. It hadn't been grazed in many years. So in 2007, their bare ground was down to 31%, and they were seeing species of perennial grasses that they hadn't seen in that area. Like this, they see blue stems, cane blue stem and big blue stem. And where does it come from? Well, sometimes they put hay out, and to try to get animals to go into an area they haven't been to in a while, to get that hoof action, and then the blue stem will grow in that area. So they're running 3 times the standards. Stock density out there, the Texas A&M says you want to have 1 cow-calf pair per 50 acres, and they're running about 1 per 20 acres, or less is kind of their goal. And so they don't use any fire chemicals, they don't irrigate, their expenses are minimal, and yet they have more cattle per acre. Now, how do they do all that? So, next. Well, we're actually in the truck, and I took a picture through the windshield, and everybody showed up. The Maddoxes have 25 paddocks of about 400 acres each, and they move the herd once a week. And actually, Joe goes out in his golf cart and whistles, and they come, because they know they're going to go to a new area. And that's not real hard work to me. Joe's close to 70 years old. He's got a 30-year plan because he just loves this stuff. And he's got mesquite and juniper and persimmon trees. Mesquite's great wood. This is a persimmon. So they've got fruit out there. They've got a lot of deer out there because of the mesquite. They can hide. So in the wintertime, a lot of deer hunters come out and spend a week or so, and they get a cash flow that way. But here's the key idea. Overgrazing is about numbers. It's not about numbers, it's about timing. I'm sorry. You want to have high impact, short duration, and then give the perennial grasses a chance to recover. Brittle environments, 2/3 of all landscape on the planet have seasonal rainfall, which implies they have dry seasons. How do we help nature store the water to get through the dry season? How do we become part of that process? And what are we doing wrong now? So grazing is timing. So let's get into that. Let's say, well, we've got hoof action, we've studied a lot of this. A mega herd of buffalo or well-timed pulsed grazing. Animal impact enriches soil. Well, here's the dung beetles. And the dung in the urine goes into the system. And you know, we thought, well, they put a lot of carbon into the ground. And this makes bug poop, humus. In 1980s, we were trying to figure out what soil was, and they discovered that it was largely bug poop. And so they called it an official word, humus. And then here's some friends over in Vermont that are carbon farmers. Non-brittle environment, they don't have a dry season, but they're making a lot of soil. And see how tightly packed the cattle are. So next. Here's this interesting story. You notice all the mesquite on the Maddox Ranch and they didn't fight it? This is down in the Chihuahua Desert. There's this grassland they wanted to preserve. And they thought, well, maybe the rainfall was different there or something like that. But you notice there's no mesquite there. And all that effort that the Texas ranchers were doing to get rid of mesquite, well, they preserved it because of the prairie dog town. The prairie dogs are becoming very rare out in the west. And in this area, they've pretty much verified that if there is woody debris or woody plants or whatever, the prairie dogs will chew them up. They want to get rid of them. And why would they? Why would prairie dogs want to get rid of woody debris, would you think?
Fox predators?
Coyotes. They don't want the coyote coming in and checking that out, you know. So, and it's interesting because I heard a rancher was really complaining about prairie dogs one day about how evil they were because they ate the grass that his animals were supposed to be eating. And that's what he thought. And they said, well, they said, well, prairie dogs are in these areas. And he says, yeah, they're always where the best grass is. So it's about how much water you store in the ground, and think about that process. But see, we didn't really know much about how that worked before. We thought if you put organic matter in the ground somehow, the dung and urine, that would really help, and it does. But there's another story. And another story, Navajo Reservation. They had the government officials, the BLM people, saying, well, we can get rid of those prairie dogs for you. And one of the chiefs said, who will pray for the rain? And but nobody's listened, and they took those prairie dogs out. And now it's gone to an area that's, well, they talk about runoff and erosion. If you let the soil go to hard pack, if you don't have that hoof action, the rain just runs off. You'll have droughts, you'll have rain, you'll have floods and droughts. The water doesn't go down. So Terry Tempest Williams is an amazing writer from Utah. She wrote, half her book was about prairie dogs, came out last year. And she was out in the field studying the guys and learning about their communication systems and stuff like that. This may be one of the huge keys to the future.